Hello everyone, welcome to HFY Beyond Terror. This channel is all about HFY and sci-fi stories, where humanity's underestimated and then proves...
Field notes from Sector 12. The day my metrics broke one quiet duty. Loud universe of ND1 survey rotations. That's how long. I'd been assigned to anomaly watch for the Coalition, long enough that my sense for interesting had dulled into a professional yawn. I'm Sava, a xenobiology assessor, grade 3. Not prestigious, not glamorous. The kind of role you give someone when you want danger cataloged neatly into columns so politicians can argue about it later. My job was simple in theory. Identify life-bearing worlds, evaluate hazardous fauna, flag anything that could turn colonists into compost, and then write reports no one reads until someone's already dead. We were stationed aboard the Drift Observer Liminal Wake, a ship built for long stares and short conversations. My only companion on this shift was Ket, a four-armed Velen with a voice like gravel poured into a bowl. Ket was eating nutrient slab, again brown, dense and shaped like a punishment. This tastes, Ket announced, tearing off a piece with two hands while two more gestured theatrically like someone boiled regret. You're being unfair, I said. Regret has complexity. Ket clicked in irritation, eye ridges lifting. My mouth is being attacked by paste. I adjusted the sensor lattice, running a routine sweep across the third planet of a modest yellow star. The system was unremarkable. Stable radiation, standard atmosphere signatures, plenty of water. Watch, I told Ket. It'll be moss and insects. We'll log it, file it, and pretend we contributed to civilization. Ket leaned over my shoulder, still chewing misery. That was when the ship started screaming. Every alarm, every channel. Visual, auditory, subharmonic alerts that made my throat sacs tense instinctively. The board lit up like a panicked festival. What in? Ket began. I was already on the biosignature feed, fingers moving fast, heartbeat accelerating faster. The readout flashed a warning in harsh Coalition red. Threat class, 9 confidence, 94% localization. Northwest landmass, OLD growth zone. Stared at it so hard I forgot to blink. Class 9, 4. Context. The Coalition threat scale runs from 1 to 10. 1 is a territorial vine with an attitude. 10 is theory nightmare math that no one wants to prove correct. 9 is the point where ecosystems stop being ecosystems and become food chains with a single opinion. Class 9 organisms tend to share traits. Redundant organs armor that laughs at small arms aggression that isn't hunger, it's practice. The physical capacity to erase a settlement before the distress beacon finishes warming up. Ket's nutrient slab dropped back onto the tray with a wet thud. That can't be right, Ket said, eye ridges climbing. This world isn't flagged for megafauna. It wasn't, I replied, voice thin. It is now. Then a second signature pings. Smaller, far smaller. Moving quickly, approaching the Class 9 marker, Ket's upper arms curled inward in a Velen sign of disbelief. That's heading toward it. Pull visual, I said. The orbital camera array spun and stitched together an image through cloud, canopy, and atmospheric haze. The forest below was ancient-looking towering trunks, layered ferns, light falling in green shafts like cathedral. Glassed out at first. I couldn't find the smaller signature. Then I saw movement, a biped in the underbrush upright posture, steady pace, no visible fear behavior. Minimal protective gear, no powered exoskeleton, no shield rig. Just fabric, light armor plating at joints, and a pack. And the database tag snapped onto the feed. Species, human, Terran individual ID. Rowan Hale affiliation, survey team Far Windmy. Mouth went dry. Humans were new. Loud in their broadcasts, messy in their politics, astonishingly fast at crawling from atmosphere to star lanes. The coalition had placed them in the standard developing contact bracket, observed, not integrated. Welcomed, but kept at arm's length. Nothing about the file suggested they were built for Class 9 encounters. Yet this human Rowan Hale was walking through a predator zone like he'd misplaced something. Ket's lower hands reached automatically toward the emergency translocation controls. Intervene? Ket asked. I hesitated. Protocol was clear. Do not interfere with emergent species unless extinction level risk was immediate and unavoidable. We were watchers, not saviors. Ket stabbed a finger at the screen. That is unavoidable. That's a Class 9. Yes, I said, forcing my thoughts into order. But I need confirmation of engagement before we what? Ket snapped. Before we watch him become a statistic? The human emerged into a clearing, and the forest answered. Two. The thing that owned the forest, the predator, came out like a moving landslide. It wasn't one creature so much as a design philosophy. Built to win, built to keep winning, built so the planet itself would hesitate before resisting. The locals translated from earlier drone recordings called it a stone-jaw bristleback. It stood roughly 3 meters at the shoulder, 6 long, not counting a tail that ended in a heavy knotted club. Its hide was layered with plated ridges, mineralized scales that our scan suggested could deflect heat-based weaponry. Its forelimbs carried hooked talons, each one thick enough to crack bone without effort. The head was the worst part, a wedge of armored skull and a jawline that looked engineered to break metal. And then it opened its mouth. The roar wasn't just loud, it was structural. It hit our sensors in a way that made the ship's audio dampeners flare. Birds, if that world had birds, would have fallen out of the sky. Small animals in the clearing did exactly that, dropped stunned. Some UNMOVING. Rowan Hale stood still. I expected panic posture. I expected freezing, shaking, the familiar prey stillness before the run. Instead, the human sighed. He tilted his head slightly, as if annoyed by a scheduling conflict. Our translator caught his words cleanly. Of course, he said. Okay, of course it's you. Ket made a strangled noise. Is he speaking to it? Rowan took one step to the side. Shoulders loose, knees slightly bent, not the stiff stance of fear, but the balanced stance of someone who knows where his weight is. The bristleback, charged. 4 tons of apex certainty, accelerated with terrifying speed. Claws tearing the ground, shoulders rolling like a battering ram with teeth. Rowan didn't run. He moved a small shift, barely more than a turn of hips and a careful sidestep. The bristleback thundered past him, momentum carrying it into the trunk of a massive tree. Bark exploded. The trunk flexed, cracked, and shuddered in protest. Rowan looked over his shoulder at the embedded predator like someone watching a large vehicle fail to park correctly. Ket whispered. No, I couldn't form words. The predator jerked free. With a shower of wood and sap, spun faster than something that size should have been able to spin, and slashed with a forelimb. A swipe built to BISECT. Rowan dipped under it, rolled across leaf litter, and came up behind the creature. Then, impossibly, insultingly, he smacked the armored flank with an open palm. Hey, Rowan called, voice bright. You've got to commit. None of that half-hearted stuff. The bristleback let out a sound that wasn't a roar this time. It was frustration. Ket's 4 hands trembled in midair. Why is it upset? Because, I said slowly, it's being treated like it's clumsy. The bristleback changed tactics. It lowered its head and came in with a brutal forward rush intended to pin Rowan against the stones at the clearing's edge. Pure mass. Pure force. Rowan waited until the last fraction of a moment. Then he dropped flat like his spine had turned to water. The bristleback sailed over him, unable to halt, and slammed headfirst into rock. The impact ticked up dust and sent a seismic ripple that our orbital instruments registered clearly. Rowan stood, brushed dirt off his sleeves, and spoke again, tone conversational, almost amused. "All right," he said. "Now you're just embarrassing yourself." Ket stared at me, eyes wide. "This isn't in their file." "No," I whispered. "It's not." The bristleback began to circle. Its breathing was heavier now. Microfractures showed in the armored skull ridge where it hit stone. It was still lethal, but no longer flawless. Rowan circled too, posture shifting, less playful, more focused, and I felt something in my gut twist. Because for the first time, the human didn't look like prey avoiding a predator. He looked like a predator assessing another predator. The bristleback lunged, jaws snapping, trying to take the human's torso. Rowan stepped into the bite. Ket shrieked. I lunged for the emergency controls, but Rowan's hand shot up, gripping the upper jaw fingers, curling under plated ridges. He planted his feet in the dirt, knees bent, back straight, and used the creature's forward momentum like a lever. There was a sound, sharp, wet, final. Neck vertebrae failing. The bristleback's body shuddered once, twice, then went slack. Silence flooded the clearing. Rowan held it for a beat, as if surprised it had ended so quickly. Then he lowered the massive head to the ground with a strange gentleness. Kneeling beside it, he placed a hand on its side. His lips moved. Our sensors didn't catch the words clearly, but the tone, soft, sincere, translated as something like, "I didn't want it to be this way." Ket's voice broke. "Did he just apologize?" I didn't answer, because I couldn't. Rowan stood, checked his arms for scratches like someone who'd trimmed thorn bush, and started walking back into the forest. Just leaving, like the dead Class 9 behind him was an inconvenience resolved. 3. Reporting the unreportable broke protocol, not by interfering, by calling it in. Ket slapped the emergency channel open with two hands while the other two gestured frantically. "Coalition oversight. This is liminal wake. Priority transmission Alpha." The reply came so fast it almost overlapped our outgoing signal. "This is Oversight Coordinator Vesh. State the emergency." Ket looked at me with a pleading expression that said, "You explain it." "If I explain it, I'll sound insane." I swallowed. "We've observed a Terran human," I said, "neutralize a Threat Class 9 organism in single combat. Unassisted." There was a pause. Then, carefully, repeat. Ket piped up, voice too loud, with his hands, like hands. "No weapons." Another pause, heavier. "Transmit footage." We did. 14 minutes later, the Coalition chamber appeared on our main display. Representatives from 6 major polities, their bodies expressing concern in half a dozen biological languages. Color shifts, frill flares, light pattern anxiety. Coordinator Vesh's face plates tightened. "Explain." So we did, frame by frame, scan by scan. We didn't editorialize. We didn't need to. When the footage ended, the chamber was silent in a way that felt like vacuum. A delegate from the Mirren Synod finally spoke, voice clipped. "One Terran does not equal a species." Ket's eyes flicked toward mine. It was my turn. "We thought the same," I said. So we cross-referenced. I pulled up Rowan Hale's profile. Not an elite soldier. Not enhanced. No genetic augment flags. No professional combat record beyond basic recreational training. Fitness rating, average. Reflex bracket, slightly above median. Cognitive scores, unremarkable. Rowan Hale, I said, is ordinary by Terran standards. The Mirren delegate's frills collapsed. That's not possible. Coordinator Vesh leaned forward. Your classification models must be faulty. Ket shook his head. We ran the models 3 times. The models are fine. Our assumptions weren't. I added, we rated Terrans by their technology and governance stability. We didn't factor physiology. A different delegate, Valari, known for emotionless logic, spoke. Define the relevant physiology. I brought up comparative anatomy, Terran skeletal density and reinforcement, muscle fiber efficiency and torque capability, nervous system latency. Under stress endurance thresholds, their pain tolerance variability, their bizarre habit of practicing. Danger for recreation. I didn't say it dramatically. I said it like a scientist, but the room reacted like I'd recited a prophecy. They jumped from aircraft for enjoyment. One delegate murmured, almost to themselves. They climb lethal mountains, another said, voice strained, as sport. Ket gestured at the screen. They invent challenges where the objective is to nearly die and then post recording so others can try. Coordinator Vesh's plates dimmed, the equivalent of fear. Valari's delegate asked the question that mattered. If Terrans are this capable, why are they not dominating interstellar space? They achieve faster-than-light travel rapidly. They could have seized trade routes by force. I exhaled slowly because I'd asked myself the same thing while watching. Rowan kneeled beside the corpse of something that should have killed him. Because they choose not to, I said. Their first contact messaging emphasized cooperation. They pursue treaties before conquest. They restrain themselves even when they don't have to. A ripple of discomfort ran through the chamber. Predator species don't do that. The Mirren delegate insisted. Terrans do, I replied. They have a concept translated roughly as civil order. Not just laws, not just infrastructure. A cultural decision to bind their own strength. Ket added quietly, they train themselves to be safe. Coordinator Vesh's voice lowered. What do you recommend? I knew the weight of that question. It was policy, history, consequences. Full. Council integration, I said. Immediately, not charity. Recognition. Outrage flashed from one of the more militaristic blocks. You'd invite them closer? Yes, I said. Because distance doesn't protect us if we misunderstand them. And because if a species like that is choosing diplomacy, we should honor that choice. Valari's delegate tilted their head. And if others challenge them, some young war clan seeking glory? I thought of Rowan's casual sidestep, the slap to the flank, the apology at the end. Then, I said, the challengers will learn an expensive lesson about mistaking restraint for weakness. The chamber voted, unanimous, though some did so like they were signing their own vulnerability, and then coordinator. Vesh looked straight at me. Sava, they said, you will be reassigned. You and your partner will serve as liaison observers aboard the Terran survey vessel Far Wind. Ket made a noise like a dying engine. I tried to protest. Coordinator, I'm a grade 3 assessor. I study life forms. I do not. That, Vesh said, is exactly why you're going. You want a dangerous fauna. Congratulations. You found one that builds cities. The channel closed. The ship felt suddenly smaller. Below, on the forested planet, Rowan Hale was already back in the canopy, carrying his pack like a hiking tourist. 4. The part that kept me awake as Liminal Wake adjusted course toward the Terran. Landing zone, Ket's voice came out low and raw. What if we're wrong? He asked. What if they're not kind? I watched the last frozen frame of the footage. Rowan's hand on the bristleback side, head bowed, posture gentle. They're capable of terrible things, I said. That's true. Ket's lower hands wrung together. But, I continued, the terrifying part isn't that they can kill. Plenty of things can kill. It's that they can kill and still feel something afterward. that they can win and then protect the territory so no one else repeats it. Ket swallowed. That's not predator behavior. No, I agreed. It's something else. Outside our hull, stars didn't care about policy or fear. They just burned. Inside, we were headed toward a species that could break a Class 9 organism like a branch, and then go back to collecting samples. A species that had decided somehow to point its strength inward, to fence itself with ideas and rules and empathy. The most dangerous kind of creature isn't the one that's hungry. It's the one that's powerful, aware of it, and still chooses restraint until it doesn't have to anymore. And that was the thought that sat in my body like a shard of ice as we descended toward the Terran camp. If they ever stop choosing restraint, there won't be a scale high enough to name what they become. Ket stared down at the planet and whispered, "Do you think he knows what he did?" I watched Rowan Hale on a secondary feed now whistling softly as he walked, as if the universe was an ordinary place. "No," I said. "I don't think he has any idea." And far away, in the quiet machinery of interstellar politics, a dozen frightened cultures were about to learn what I'd learned in a single clearing of green light and shattered stone. Humanity had stepped onto the stage. Not as children. As something older than that. As something that learned to shake hands when it could have sharpened its teeth.